Welcome, guys. Welcome, all the panelists. And I am very glad to invite all of you, our moderator, our panelists. And hi, guys. I believe you're enjoying all the sessions which is going around. And this session is another exclusive one. So, this panel is going to discuss about digital design and its benefit for organization and how it is better for your organization. Well, for this panel discussion, we have Vidisha Devsarkar and Richa Khera and our moderator, yes, Untitled Chapter. Well, to be very accurate about what exactly we are going to discuss, digital design. Digital design has led the world to lead to a better organizational structure. A very well customized, digitally marketed, and digitally customized website can attract more of customers and more of attraction towards your product. And we are diving into a very good digital space, and that's why this topic, digital design and its future for your organizations, is very important. So, yeah, let me now invite our panelist. We have Richa Khera, the Global Director for Social Media Schneider. Of course, chats may we can give a hand of applause for Miss Richa Khera. And we also
Hi.
want to invite Vidisha Devsakar, Head of Growth Marketing from Trade Smart. Trade Smart Schneider, two world powers, I can say, on our panel. And we have a moderator who is going to lead forward each and every conversation and each and every question and answer that you guys have on the chat. You can keep putting the chats as many as you can. So let's invite our moderator, Achal Khosla. And now, moving forward, the chat and the conversation is all yours, our panelist and our moderator. It's your time. All the best.
Thanks, Gaurav. Thank you so much. Super pumped to be here with you, Vidisha and Richa. Such diverse experience in marketing, and of course, I mean, the kind of organizations that you have been associated with. This is truly an honor. Quickly getting started on our topic, which is digital design. I, for one, am super excited about it. The fact that so much has happened in the recent past and in the recent sort of times around this space. Vidisha, I would love to start with you. That digital design, of course, has gained a lot of prominence. And I think it's very evident to all of us who are working in this space. As a marketer, what excites you the most about this space, and how do you see it overall?
Okay, thanks Achal for this question. I think one of the very important questions because I think digital design has pretty much like changed the entire landscape, digital landscape, so to say, because it's a very important part. One of the biggest wins of digital design is it is measurable. As opposed to the traditional design, there is no measure. You cannot measure, you cannot track. So I think one of the biggest areas is it is measurable, and of course, it is also changeable and it's more agile. So there's this continuous learning process. You're never stopping at something and saying that, okay, finally I have achieved nirvana. That never happens in digital design. You are continuously learning, iterating, being agile, trying to create delights at every point. Also, gone are the days when brands used to essentially look for perfection, that okay, this is the perfect design, let's go ahead with it. But
Yes.
now there is nothing called perfection. It is primarily your consumer is essentially driving your design mindset. If your consumer is asking for something, if your consumer is behaving in a certain way, your design will have to change as per your consumers, right? And one more interesting fact about digital design, because it's becoming so challenging. See, your devices, your real estate is becoming smaller and smaller, right? And it is coming closer to you. So first is, we used to have these hoardings and all, which are really far away, really large. Then you move to a television slightly smaller. Now you move to a laptop. From a laptop you've moved on to a mobile phone, which is right on your face every day. And now I think the next era is smartwatches. So you'll start creating design for smartwatches as well. So it's becoming smaller and smaller. So obviously these are some very exciting things where you have like minimum elements but with maximum impact. So that's what is very exciting about digital design.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Richa is a global director of social media, and I think your designation also gives away how much of digital design do you, on a regular basis, come across, and how do you feel about digital design, and what really excites you the most about it?
Yeah, I think certainly the landscape has changed in the last couple of years, and more so in the last 2 years, right? I think the absolute ability of good content and design to be able to one move the consumer or to drive an end action. I think that's very very powerful in its own self, right? And this is true for B2C brands. This is true for B2B brands. I've worked in both, so I can certainly say it works across the board for variety of
Right.
objectives. So think of it like maybe a consumer wanting to just maybe know more about you, or a B2B brand which is talking to CXOs to build more thought leadership, to look like a leader in the category. So it's the sheer ability of digital design to be able to influence these large cohorts of people, and do so by obviously a lot of meaningful impact to it. So that's number one to me. Secondly, I think Vidisha also touched upon it. Look at the diversity of the breadth of the digital space that we've come, and it's evolving. It's not stopping anytime soon. So we started off with videos, and videos used to be long format, probably 30 seconders, 60 seconders. Nobody has the patience to watch it anymore, right? We then said, okay, let's do a 10 seconder, then let's do a bumper ad, let's do a 6 seconder.
Right.
How do you make it even shorter, but how do you make it more impactful at the same time? So I think formats are changing. Look at the chat right now. Like, if I don't feel like speaking, I can just put a gif out there and say, hey, this is how I feel, without actually saying what I feel. So I think, yeah, there's the breadth of formats. There are stories, there are infographics. Think of a static, which is probably a cinema graph, right? It tells so much. You can tell a story by way of a simple format as well. So
Right.
yeah, I think some very exciting times ahead, and the evolution is certainly long, long way to go.
Exciting. I will take it up from there, Richa. Across industries, irrespective of what space we are talking about, how do you see a digital organization? How do you define it? Of course, and then how do you explain the need for it also?
Yeah. So I think a digital organization, well, it has many facets, and certainly it's not a unidimensional one in nature. So it obviously cuts across, your structure, your operating model. Are you a retail brand? Are you a food retail brand, or are you, an e-commerce brand? So it just cuts across structure, the operating model, the culture, the talent, the leadership. So it's all how all of it comes together. And certainly the need to be relevant is obviously very very important, and it's a do or die situation for organizations, right? Your customers have gone digital. The pandemic has literally changed the landscape. The internet penetration has gone so much higher up in India. Your employees are digital now. We all work remotely, right? So the entire landscape has changed. So it's not just the consumer anymore, it's also your employee experience at the heart of everything that you do for the end consumer eventually. So it's literally about how the whole organization will embrace this large change, right?
Right.
Which brings me to the point that other processes enabled for it, right? Even if one was to probably work on a, like for example, if there's a creative team which is sitting probably in parts in a different city. For me, I work with teams which are sitting probably in Poland, or they're working in different time zones. How
Right.
do you even collaborate with some of them? Do we have the right tools to collaborate? I'm not going to send an email on everything or every small change that I require. So is your tech stack scalable enough to meet this complexity of remote people, remote customers? So it's been more important than ever. It's super exciting, but also a good challenge to solve for organizations.
Right, right. Vidisha, sort of, opening the same question to you. How do you define a digital organization, and how do you see the need for it, especially in your experience across organizations? How have you seen things evolving, and what has really been the most exciting part of it all for you?
I think going digital, being digital, is I think something which a lot of so to say the marketing pundits are talking about every single day. Okay,
Right.
but it's very important to really understand the crux of it. There is a huge a difference between what organization to organization understand about being digital. So for some organizations, like Richa rightly said, could be about just about technology. Maybe, I'm upgrading my technology. Okay, some people might think about, what are the new avenues of me to reach out to my customers? Can there be the right tools? How do I reach out to people? That could be going digital. Some
Right.
people would say that, oh no, I need to change my entire business process, so let me change my business process. But
Right.
overall, I feel what a digital organization truly is the one that is accurately aware of its consumer behavior. It is
Right.
now consumers can be your internal audience also, which who are
Correct.
employees, okay, and can be your external audiences also, right? And it
Right.
not only understands what these consumers want, but it also understands how do these consumers interact with the brand, because every consumer type of consumer is going to differently interact with the brand, right? And this also essentially, gives a lot of opportunity for newness to obviously automate a lot of experiences that consumers go through today, and also to so overall I feel it is there to, somewhere, if the organizations have this goal in mind that I want to elevate my customer experience, I think that is the right thing to say, rather than saying that in piecemeal that only technology, only customers, only this. So I think overall your agenda should be, I want to elevate my customer experience through the use of technology, through the use of tools, through
Right.
whatever said and done.
Right.
In
Right. Right.
today's day and age, being digital is not an option anymore. Okay.
Correct.
I mean,
Right.
you have to be digital no matter what. Your consumer expectations are through the roof, and it's never been so demanding, right? And everybody wants a seamless experience
Right.
wherever they are, whichever part of the world they are sitting in. Okay, whatever device they are using, everybody is demanding for a seamless experience, right? How
Right.
do you give that experience? Digital is your answer. So I mean, it's not an option. I don't even feel that, there's any more this question about, oh, does an organization need to be digital? I feel it's not an
Right.
option.
Absolutely, Vidisha, I couldn't agree more with you. I think even the most traditional organizations have now sort of, realized and quickly pivoted to this transformation and made sure that things very seamlessly. 90% of the companies are working in the cloud, so I think that's a very clear indicator of how things have changed. But if I had to sort of ask you to pinpoint the main drivers for an organization or a company to ensure or enable digital transformation sooner, faster, and in the most efficient way, what would be your main drivers for the same?
I think I will keep this very short, okay, because it's it's the easiest answer that I can think of.
Right.
Honestly, the drivers, one is obviously you have to be latest. Okay, when I say latest, you have to continue to upgrade yourself, no matter what. Upgrade on technology, upgrade on tools, upgrade on existing systems. You have to be latest.
Right.
There is no falling back. Next is, also you have to keep on researching, understanding your consumers. Okay, like I've continuously saying consumers, but that is the fact, right? It's a very consumer biased situation today. Also, there is a need for speed and agility. So
Right.
if you are slow, you have lost it. Okay, by the time we have finished this session, I think somewhere in the world something has already changed. Some behavior has already changed. So you have to be really fast. You have to have the mindset. You have to make the decision making really fast, that okay, ठीक है ये करना है, let's do it, let's experiment fast, fail fast, and आगे बढ़ते हैं. Okay. Also, the other part is, it is also about attracting the right talent. See, just thinking digital, being digital, talking digital does not make you digital. You have to have the right mindset. You have to have the right people. So have
Right.
the right people come into your organization, who have this digital mindset. Otherwise, you are zero without your people, without your people thinking digital.
Correct.
And of course, automation is something which is, everything today can be automated. So, reduce. Now, automation does not really, take away somebody's job. Let me say that. Okay, that is not what I mean to say here. But automation is essentially to possibly, enhance what your people are doing, help what your people are doing, optimize what your people are doing, and not really to replace anybody. That is not what automation does. And
Right.
thirdly, obviously, one of the biggest drivers today is AI. If you don't have an AI, okay, whether it is for internal audience, external audience, understand everything, have your tools, without an AI, it's flat, because you have no learnings to take from it. You don't have ways to think more intelligently, right? So AI is
Right.
also one important driver, I feel. However, it is not, maybe not applicable everywhere, but I feel in today's day and age, AI is pretty much used everywhere. Even your watches have AI now. So, I mean, AI is the thing to do, to go.
Right. 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 Quite insightful, Vidisha. Richa, I would love to understand and hear about how you feel about the main drivers for a digital transformation when it comes to
Yeah.
any organization from any industry.
Yeah, I think, look, certainly consumer experience has gained a lot of momentum in the, last few years, and that's the reality today, right? The consumer is why businesses exist today, and not the other way around, how it used to be, couple of decades back.
Right.
So, and it's not just about how the consumers interact with you. We've come to a stage where everything is designed for the consumer. Like, how do you really build the voice of the consumer in the product that is getting developed, right? So,
Right.
it's not just a post purchase feedback loop, it's also how you really understand what they want, build their voice into the product that you're making, give it back to them, make sure the experience right till the time they're using it, it reaches them, excellent packaging to your post purchase service. It all these touch points are more important than ever. So it's the end to end digital customer experience which has gained a lot of momentum, so that is certainly driving this transformation.
Right.
In my mind, rest everything else revolves around it, because extreme customer obsession is what we need, and this is what we've seen Amazon doing it, right? So everything right from your people, your talent, to your technology, to the process, your data governance is literally revolving around this, right? It
Right.
all arranges itself to become part of this ecosystem. So that's
Right.
that's what is driving transformation. But in my mind, it's the extreme customer obsession. Absolutely.
Wow. Got it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, all right. That brings us to the next question. Also, taking a pause here to make sure that I'm not exhausting my panelists, and we are good to go with the next question. The next question, of course, is more towards understanding the evolution of digital design as you have seen it. What has been your opinion? What is the fact that how do you see it in the next couple of years evolving from where it has already evolved? We have seen quite a remarkable evolution up till here also. But what are your insights as to how it's going to evolve going forward? Richa, if I would love it if you sort of take this
Yeah.
up first, I would then circle back to Vidisha.
Sure. So I just have three things to say here. And the first one is it's certainly going to be more immersive and more seamless. And when I say immersive, it certainly is when the consumer feels part of it. But at the
Right,
same time, it's also going to be much easier to build and operate. So anything
right,
that's going to evolve is not only going to be for specialists or somebody who has extreme level of sophistication. I think simplicity is what's going to matter in the future, but it's all
correct,
going to be very immersive and seamless. And organizations or systems or solutions which are driving this simplicity are the ones who are going to monetize on this the most, right? Because
right,
complexity is everywhere. I think simplicity is the one which is certainly going to get far more monetized. The
right,
second one is that it's certainly going to get very specialized for niches, platforms. We've been talking about audience, personas, personalization, but now is really the time when it's all coming to life across touch points. So even building for niches will have so much scale that everything is going to get customized to them, and probably some brands are already there on one-to-one personalization. So niche is going to be a big one. And
right,
thirdly, it's going to be far more democratic and collaborative. We've seen this, exploding in the influencer space. There was a time where probably YouTube was ruling the roost, but it's not that anymore, right? It's far more democratic. Sitting here, if, today, you and I want to be like a micro influencer, or probably you already are, it's fairly easy to do, right? And we do have opinions on and we have interest areas. So it's far more democratic. It's not, like this section of people who are the only ones who can create content anymore. It's going to be far more democratic. It's going to be far more collaborative, all driven through technology and systems.
Right, right. Interesting. Uh, uh, just sort of, one question around that, Richa. Every time we speak of niche, how do we tackle the problem of scale? I mean, even though, digital and digital transformation has sort of, picked up and in a big way, and we've been catering to, clients, and, the idea is that if things start to become so customizable, do you think in the times forward, scale would also be a problem that would be sort of, taken care of through something that we sort of come up with?
Yeah, I think, look, when we talk, we are building for a niche. At some point in time, the niche is going to be big enough to give you that kind of scale, and
Right,
for anybody to be, like far more profitable or scalable yourself in that segment. So certainly, yeah, I think even niches will have scale because there will be multiple niches by itself. So any solution which is probably, helping cater to these multiple niches will certainly be there. B2B
right,
marketing especially works on a lot of personas. There could be tens of personas. It certainly has a lot of, potential.
right, right. Totally. Vidisha, bringing the same question to you, how do you see digital design and digital transformation evolving in the coming times? What is it that you think is going to be the game changer of it all?
So I think this is something that I mentioned earlier also. The devices are getting smaller, okay, and expectations are becoming bigger, right? So how are you going to balance this out? Okay, that is what future is going to be about, right? Also, if I may just coin a quick term around it, the future is going to be, maybe it could be called hyper reality. Reason
Right,
being, it is going to be a mix of, there's going to be AI, there's going to be AR, there's going to be VR, there's going to be MR. It's going to be a balance and a mix of everything, right?
correct,
So essentially, one of the biggest design challenges is going to be how will you build this balance, or maybe, how will you build this transition between the
right,
real world and the virtual world. Okay, there's going to be this quick transition that is going to be required in the,
right,
just it's the near future. It's almost there, we can almost touch it. It's almost that near. So
right,
that is going to be one of the biggest design challenges, so to say. Also, see, I'm not saying that experiences today are not immersive enough, but it has to be hyper immersive. Okay, it
right,
has to be so compelling. Your designs, your visual elements, your simulations that you're going to be building to tomorrow. Okay, simulations around everything. There's going to be simulation for a farm also. There's going to be simulation for medicine. There's going to be simulation for everything tomorrow, right? So how do you like quickly build those delights within those simulations? How are you going to create simplicity for anybody and everybody to enter, right? Just like Richa said, democratizing the whole platform, the whole space, whatever space it may be. Okay, democratizing it, making it simple, minimal. That
right.
is what is future.
Right, right. Totally agree. Richa, how about you? What do you feel about this?
Yeah, so I think immersive certainly means, I think Vidisha touched upon it, on how seamless are the two, lives. Like, there's a virtual life that you lead, but there's also a real physical aspect of it. So, how seamless are the two, right? It sounds a little futuristic, but it's probably there already, right? We
Right,
spend what, eight, no, not eight, in fact, like 10, 12 hours on the screen, be it your phone screen, be it your laptop. So,
right,
if you really like shut down your camera, you're probably a persona who's out there, right? So I
right,
think it's about how seamless are the two going to be, and how people feel like they're part of the two at the same time, right? So I think that's what's going to drive it. I think the things probably to keep in mind would be to certainly add value to the end consumer. The content either has to be educative or entertaining, either of the two, right? So that's
right.
that's probably where we are headed.
Excellent. My That brings me to my last question, Vidisha and Richa. If I have to ask you, what are the three key things that you ask your team at the moment, or the people in your organization, to keep in mind when it comes to digital design? What would those be?
Who do you want to start?
Vidisha, sure, you go ahead.
Okay. Um, I think there are just three M's, I would say, in that sense. Okay,
Right,
in this whole digital space. So one being make. Okay, you just start making. You have to start building your storytelling. There has to be a storytelling, right, to every design.
right,
You have to build your brand narrative. You have to also be impactful. You have to ensure that your design is readable also, because sometimes these small practical designers take this creative liberty of using these really fancy fonts, which I have seen, which are not even readable. But you have to
right.
ensure that it's readable on any device, whether it's your
Correct.
phone, okay, whether it's your laptop. It has to be readable. Like, we have to keep these basics in mind, when you're making anything. Also, you have to
Right,
build a hierarchy of information, because if there is no hierarchy, you'll really not understand, what you want your consumers to focus on more, vis-a-vis what you want your consumers to maybe read at length, or
right.
where you really want your consumers to take action. So there has to be a storytelling and a proper hierarchy also to that storytelling. Just not just random things stitched together will really not make sense.
Makes
um
sense.
then, moving on, then obviously moving on to the next M, which is measure. After you make, you also have to measure, and just not leave it for interpretation or guesstimations. Today is,
Right,
is a digital world. Every single thing, okay, every single word is accountable for, is measurable, okay, is trackable. Everything is there, all your data points are there. It's very important that even designers start becoming slightly more data centric, okay, where they are able to understand the impact of what they are creating. Okay, that's the beauty of this. Let's even measure what we are really doing, whether it's impactful, whether or it is just looking good from a design standpoint,
right,
but the UX sucks. I mean, that
right,
that will be a complete disaster, right? So,
right,
measuring the impact, and then that will actually help you or give a direction to move to the next M, which is mend. Okay, so make, measure, and mend. So mending would be essentially, I don't say that you mend once and khatam, no, finish, move on with your life, move on with your business. No, you have to, this is a cycle. Okay, you mend, again you have to make, again you have to measure, again you have to mend. Okay, basis what comes in your measurability. So I think these are very three basic fundas which you need to follow when it comes to digital design, and this is possible also in a digital design.
right, right. Absolutely. Richa, your quick three things that you think would
Yeah. I think the
something.
three
Yeah,
questions, yeah, I typically ask my team would be: one, is it customer first or not? Because often the lens sometimes is inward out. I strongly urge teams to kind of, don the customer first lens, think from the
right,
consumer's perspective and ask yourself, is this adding value to them or not? That's number one.
right, right,
Secondly, is it simple enough to be understood by them? Because a lot of times we probably have a tendency to throw out jargons which we feel like we understand, but does your consumer really understand it? So how
right,
do you simplify it? The third is,
right,
like I said, is it adding value to your end consumer? Is she finding it compelling enough to be seen? Is it educative? Is it entertaining? What is it doing for them? So I
right,
think, yeah, these three things put together, they perhaps answer for a lot of filters that we need to put in. And finally, certainly measuring it. I think Vidisha touched upon a really interesting aspect: measuring it. If you can't measure it, or what it is doing for you, it's probably not doing anything. And how do you really build that feedback loop into your
right.
creative process again, and you keep bettering it over time?
Right, right. Thank you so much, Richa and Vidisha. I think these 30 minutes have been absolutely insightful. To the audience who had a few questions, I would recommend that you get in touch with Richa and Vidisha over the internet, over LinkedIn. And I think I'm taking the liberty on your behalf to say that you'll be more than happy to answer any questions that they may have. Since we are running a little short on time, we couldn't pick up any here, but I think it's always a great opportunity to connect with them over any other platform that they would be more than happy to get in touch with you on. Thank you so much once again, and thank you everyone for joining in and making this such an interactive session.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, thank you, Achal, as well. You were very lovely, and the conversation, the chat, and every question which was precisely asked, and it was thoroughly answered. The three M's which Vidisha mentioned, and the customer-centric point of view which Richa has mentioned was amazing. So, thank you so much, panelists. It was lovely to have you. I hope even you enjoyed the conversation with Achal, and the chats and the questions were very positive. If at all any question is pending, and if the team thinks it's valuable, we can always forward to the panelist, and it would be lovely if you can answer them. And digital world was very well mended and ecstatic conversation. Thanks a lot, and see you soon in the next panel discussion.